I guess how are the safeties looking? Or are they up to where you want them to be yet? Or
I think that's a work in progress, right? I think anytime you come into a new group of guys, you want to make sure they understand the culture, number one, that you want to have within the group. And I think you want them to understand your expectations. And so we spend a lot of time creating those expectations and making sure that is crystal clear on the field, off the field. Person over player, that's a huge deal here. And I think you have to make sure they understand the technique, right? So I think some guys look at me like, don't make me a robot. And it's like, I'm not trying to make you a robot. I'm trying to make sure your technique is so perfect that when you get into a game situation, you just fall into that technique. And so it's been good so far, really good so far. And appreciate the buy-in.
Getting to know you too, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And so we talked this last week about truth, touch, time, tension. That's how you build trust, right? And so you got to tell them the truth about yourself. They got to tell you the truth about themselves. So we have them fill out questionnaires on Google Drive, and they send in all these different like crazy questions about themselves, stuff they're probably looking at like, who's this guy asking these weird questions? But they're to a point. Their personality review questions and deals like that. And so and then touch, that's the time you get. Touch is them, so the time you're spending with them, and the time is the overall time it takes to build that trust. And then tension is always going to come. And so when tension comes, how do we react? Do we react with love and wisdom, or do we react with hate and negativity? And so making sure the guys understand we're not reacting with hate and negativity. If we give up a touchdown in the first quarter against Iowa State, it's not, oh, he did that. No, it's like, oh, let's fix this and let's go forward in a positive direction. So.
Christian Morgan's been here a long time. How much does it help having a guy like him?
It helps a lot. So he knows the defense really well, and so for him, we're playing him at a number of different spots, free and star, and so I think when you look at that and double training somebody in two different positions they've never really played in this system, it's not necessarily him being a new player, but it is new positions. And so when you look at playing new positions, that's a different world. And so I think that's been good for him. His plate is loaded, right? And so we're keeping him busy, that's for sure.
For you, how was the transition? Was there an adjustment, or did it feel a little bit like LSU over again?
It feels like home, number one, because of the people. And so this was our dream job. And so if we wanted to be anywhere in the country, this is where we wanted to be. And so, I told the players' parents, both in the safety group, in the initial Zoom, and the parents of the specialists, I'm not going anywhere. This is where I plan to be for a very long time. If we could be here the next 10 years, we would love that. If we could be here the next 20, we'd love that even more. We're not chasing jobs. That's not what we're trying to do. My wife has a very, very strong support system here with the coaches' wives. A lot of our best friends are here. A lot of my personal best friends are here. So this is where I've wanted to be since I had to leave LSU and go to Nevada. It just didn't work out initially. So the transition period, it felt like home, but then there's a lot of stuff to do, right? And so there's the star, the free, the week, there's special teams. And so the hours have been it's a lot of hours, but that's if you're doing what you love, it doesn't bother you, right? And so I think now it is starting to slow down now that we're like moved into the house and you're like, oh, okay, where's my deodorant at, right? That's one of those things you don't think about, and you get into it and you're like, I don't know where my deodorant's at. It's 4:30 in the morning and I'm gonna have to figure this out or I'm gonna smell really bad all day. So that's not a good feeling. And so just figuring out all that stuff and like where's the stuff at in the house, who are my players, how do they react to this coaching, my coaching staff, like around me, the guys around me, is getting to know them a little bit more. Not necessarily the defensive staff, but everyone that I didn't know originally. And so all of that has been good, though. I think we've been welcomed with open arms, and Waco's a great place. Baylor's a great place with great people, and so that is the beauty of what we're able to do right now.
Is working for Dave Aranda the same now as it was when he's at DC?
No, it's different. He's grown a lot, and so he's an excellent head coach. He does a great job of building culture. And so, my role at LSU was to basically like live inside of his brain and kind of anticipate what he needed, right? And so a lot of people are like, how well do you know Coach Aranda? It's like extremely well, because I was his right-hand man at LSU for 4 years. And so when you're talking about times of tension, you get to see who people are. And so I know who he is in times of tension, and when things are going good and going bad. And so from that aspect, I knew who I was going to work for. But to see how much he's grown as a head coach, to see the way that he does it, I think is unique, really unique. I don't think there's a lot of places in the country are doing things the way that we do them. A lot of people talk about family. A lot of people say stuff about like person over player, and honestly, it's a line of lies, different stuff, right? And so here it's actually real. And so I think he does a great job of making sure the assistants are not just doing football, making sure they're taking care of their guys, taking them out to eat, making sure they're getting to know them, having personal meetings, talking about academics, and making sure that they're going to be equipped for life after football.
When you come into a new group like this, how much do you rely on old film versus just kind of starting with a fresh slate?
I think you watch old film, but then, it helps that I'm friends with Powell. And so the guy that coached these guys before, we had a lot of conversations about the group, but, to his credit, he wasn't going to badmouth anybody if they had issues in the past. And I didn't want that. I think you want to start fresh. And I told each player that, it's a clean slate, man, let's go. And so, for a lot of our guys, they don't have a lot of film. And I told the safety group, how many of you guys have over 100 snaps on defense at Baylor? I was like, maybe 2, maybe. And so a lot of the guys that played big roles here last year are gone. Just a completely new group, completely new team, and just buying into that building process of every day and where you want to be when it's all said and done, and understanding where you want to be and what it takes daily. And so it's not necessarily a situation where, everyone talks about the process. Well, it really is, and there's joy in the process. And so I know the basketball team talks about, culture of joy. I'm into that whole deal. I love it. And so understanding that. So it's the daily, the daily work with your boys that you're going to see 20 years from now, and you don't talk so much about the wins and losses as you do about the time spent together. I know that's how it is with the guys that I played with in college. And so understanding that daily sacrifice for things that you may want at the moment that you can't do. Like a couple days ago when everyone else on campus is partying, it's no, that's not what we're doing. Because we're going to sacrifice now for what we want most in the end, and understanding that. And I think the guys do number one, because of the culture, but number two, because of, them and who they are. They've done a good job of that.
Do you feel like their eyes are, wide with the fact that they're going to have to fill into some of those bigger roles this year, and you feel like they're ready for that challenge?
No, they're ready. And so the whole thing you want to build within the group is, hey, everyone has to be ready at all times, because, you're playing star right now, but in week 3, you may be playing weak safety. So, learn the position we have you in, but we want to see, what you can do in all spots. And so a lot of the things that we're doing in terms of individual drill work is cross-training them and trying to teach them conceptually rather than just, hey, this is me and this is what I do in this position. No, it's a conceptual deal. So if we're teaching a concept, understand this piece, and this piece. And when you teach them in that way, I think they're less bright-eyed and whoa, right? And they start to go, okay, they're locked in, because when you're talking about football players, there's 3 phases, right? There's the first phase where they really don't even know anything and they're just running around. And there's the second phase where, okay, they know what they're doing, but then they're not making plays. And there's the third phase where they know what they're doing and they're making plays. And then the fourth phase is they're on autopilot and they can really go get it. So.
Who are you looking at the Star?
A lot of guys. I mean, we've repped 4 guys there so far, 4 or 5. So we've repped Larondo, we've repped Romario, or Laron. I don't never know if I'm saying it right. I always ask him. Snacks. So Snacks, Romario Noel, and who else? Alfonso Allen, nickname is Peanut, and then Christian is also a rep there as well, and then Griffin Speaks. And so we've repped 5 guys at Star, but we're teaching them all, right? Because, I was talking to Devin Lemire, and I was like, hey, man, week 4 next year, you might play in Star. Know it, right? Because he started at that position, when he was an earlier enrollee last year. So I think the biggest thing with the group is don't just get caught up in you're Star, you're free, you're weak. No, you're a football player, right? Learn the jobs, learn this job really well, but know what's going on around you. Because the more you know what's going on around you, then you know the why, right? And then if you know the why, then you can get into, hey, in cover 3, this is the negative here. This is where we're going to have trouble. Cover 2, that's the negative. Man, that's the negative. And so understanding the stress points within each defense after you learn the scheme at each spot is the next level of graduation for the players.
Seems like Devin's another one. You mentioned him, but I mean,
Yeah.
he's a guy that actually has some experience. Maybe not a ton, but
Yeah, he's incredibly intelligent, conscientious, works hard, and so, he came to my office that day and he was like, "Man, you're really crazy about this run to the ball stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, that's a big deal." It's like, "You pulled me after I ran to the ball, but I didn't tag off." And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "But I learned." And I was like, "I think that's the whole deal." So he takes coaching really well. He's extremely intelligent. He can answer all the questions. So him, Devin Neal, those guys are smart, and they understand the defense. And so we've got some guys that I'm very excited about, and we've got younger guys in the group they're helping bring along. So the safety group as a whole is very talented, and they just have to continue to buy in each day to committing to game reps and understanding that. So.
Has there been any one person that's kind of stood out as a leader in that group?
No, we're still going through trying to figure out what that's going to be, right? And I always tell people, like, leadership doesn't necessarily mean you've been here a long time. Leadership, you know, when I've been other spots in like Division III where sophomores were leaders of the football team over seniors, and so I think you can mold leaders 100%, and I think that's something that you definitely do mold. But I think some people have the natural ability to lead, and so the people that have the natural ability to lead, whatever their leadership style may be, you want to try to empower them to lead in that way. And so if they're going to lead in a certain way, some guys want to be vocal. I'm not big on vocal leadership, honestly. Like on the field, I want you to communicate and check, but I'm not into all the talking. I'm more about action. And so if you can show it to me, that's a whole lot more important. You know, actions speak louder than words in all phases of life, and just trying to teach the guys that.